Whether you operate one forklift or thousands, one location or hundreds, the new My Toyota customer portal can help you optimize your operation and material handling equipment. This one-stop, free-to-use platform is designed to help you take control of your information and make smarter decisions, all at the touch of a button. Register and access your data today at my.toyotaforklift.com. That's my.toyotaforklift.com.
The New Warehouse Podcast, hosted by Kevin Lawton, is your source for insights and ideas from the distribution, transportation, and logistics industry. A new episode every Monday morning brings you the latest from industry experts and thought leaders. And now, here's Kevin.
Hi, it's Kevin Lawton with the New Warehouse Podcast, and we are here at MODEX 2020 in Atlanta. We're at the New Warehouse Podcast booth, and we are joined by Daniel Theobald, who is the founder and CEO of Vecna Robotics. You may remember that we've had Vecna on this show before. We've talked to David Clear and some others as well. Actually did a visit up to Vecna Robotics to see how everything's working up there in Massachusetts as well. But we never got a chance to talk to Daniel, so now we have the honor to talk to the founder of the company. So Daniel, welcome to the booth and welcome to the show. Why don't you tell us a little bit about yourself and tell us, how you got involved in Vecna and ended up founding it?
Yeah, thank you. The pleasure is all mine. So I have had a passion for robotics since the early days. I was fortunate enough to grow up in Silicon Valley.
Oh, okay.
Really back before it was even called Silicon Valley. My elementary school was one of the first elementary schools in the world to have a computer lab.
Oh, wow.
Apple I, PET, Commodore computers, which of course I didn't. I just assumed it was the same everywhere, right?
You're just a little kid, right?
Yeah, little kid, didn't realize. And just growing up, I had tremendous opportunity to technical education, middle school, high school. In high school, I was chosen as the top computer science student in all of California and got to go to Lawrence Livermore National Lab. Yeah. There I got to program the world's fastest computer at the time.
Really?
I did some AI projects and met some amazing people like Edward Teller, the father of the hydrogen bomb, which really had an impact on the way I think about technology. And, the technology is here to really help move the human race forward.
Yeah, definitely.
So I've always had this passion for empowering humanity through technology. Was really taking a long view on how to build a company that could do that. Okay. So, from the beginning, my focus was let's design the technology that is going to help get us to where we need to be in the long run. Okay. And, we've just taken a very disciplined approach now over the years about executing that.
Very interesting and a very impressive background as well. I didn't realize all that about you. So it makes sense as to why you are involved in robotics now, right? Because that's really kind of enabling, like you said, humans to be more effective through technology, right? So tell us, I guess, a little bit how then you kind of arrived at Vecna and how Vecna kind of got started, I guess, in your minds first, and then how it actually got physically started.
Yeah, so we took an approach that allowed us to not have what I would call an artificial time horizon. Okay. A lot of companies have great ideas, great people, great products potentially, but the timing is not quite right. Okay. And so you see companies that don't survive, go bankrupt, go out of business because the market timing and the technology and the customer readiness didn't all align. Right. We took a very conservative approach where we decided that we were going to observe the market, invest heavily in our technology over the years, but not attempt to scale up until certain criteria were met. We wanted to make sure that the technology was ready, there was ROI, that the labor markets were appropriate, that there was a pull from the industry rather than a push. Right? Prior to about 2017, we saw just a lot of companies trying to push new technology into logistics, mostly unsuccessfully. Okay. Our approach was, we were doing pilots and that kind of thing, of course, to be out there in the real world learning. But mostly we were watching what others were doing and investing heavily in our technology stack, with the idea that when the time was right, we would come out and we would be able
strike,
to.
Right.
Exactly.
Right.
So in June of 2018, we spun Vecna Robotics out and brought in outside investment very soon thereafter for the first time. Prior to that, we built the company organically so that we wouldn't have this artificial time horizon.
Right. So I guess I'm curious, you talked about how, your whole life you've been involved in technology and all these different things. So what kind of, I guess, was the point that you decided, I want to venture into, material handling technology?
Yeah, that became clear very early on.
Okay.
When we looked at what the opportunities were for having robots really provide value.
Right.
Unfortunately, early on, a lot of the funding for robotics research was coming from the military. But there you do get exposed to this idea that there's the dull, dirty, and dangerous.
Right.
We don't hear that as much anymore. That was something that was talked about a lot maybe a decade ago. But the idea is there are a lot of jobs that are not really enjoyable for humans, and humans aren't
Definitely.
as good at them as well. So, it was very clear to us that logistics was the right place to really empower workers. Our whole approach from the beginning is a bit different perhaps than others in that we're never taking an approach of let's replace the worker. Our approach is always let's empower that worker to do more than they ever could before, to be more efficient, to make their job more enjoyable. Right? Some of our customers have struggled with 300% turnover. Right? That means that every year they're replacing their entire staff on average 3 times.
3 times. That's insane.
It's insane, right?
Yeah.
It's absolutely insane. And you say, well, why don't they, raise wages? Well, they do again and again and again. And that's really not solving the problem. The problem is that this is the type of work that people don't really want to do.
Yeah, they don't want to do long term.
Yeah. It's backbreaking labor. It's boring. Wow. Sounds like a great job for a robot.
Yeah.
So, so that's really the key there is making the robots do the things that humans don't want to do and aren't good at, and empowering the humans to do more. And that's the key that I think people often leave out.
Right.
How do you empower the humans to do more? Well, what we find is that there is this incredible opportunity to leverage the human's ability to solve problems, to be creative, and the robot's consistency, need to never take a break. When you put those two together effectively, you've really got a recipe for scale, efficiency, flexibility. Right? Flexibility is a huge, huge issue that is just being driven by the completely unrealistic consumer demands that have been created over the past decade. A lot of warehouses, factories, shipping facilities, distribution centers, they can no longer predict what they're going to be doing 10 years from now, 5 years from now, 1 year from now in many cases even. So they are driving towards investing in technology that allows them to adapt without having to rip and replace their entire warehouse. So that's a big part of what we've been doing. What we bring to the table at Vecna Robotics is the most flexible bulk automation solutions, so bulk handling, automated forklifts.
Right.
That's the easiest way to think about it. Pick up that load completely autonomously, take it from point A to point B in the warehouse. We really focused on that area because that was clearly one of the biggest unmet needs in the automation space.
I agree, yeah.
Our technology, though, has been developed in a completely platform-agnostic way. So the exact same the exact same software that runs on our forklifts also runs on our small little RC20 robots that can carry just a single case or tote. And part of the value of having that same software run on everything is that, one, it's a lot more safe, it's a lot more secure because you're getting a lot of miles on that software.
Right.
Two, very easy to now manage and integrate that across entire workflows. We've never met a customer that has a need for just one type of robot.
Right.
They all have to deal with different unit loads, different large items, medium,
There's a lot
small
of variability,
items,
different scenarios. Yeah,
stuff in totes, stuff in pallets, individual piece picking, case picking, pallet picking. All of those activities are involved, and so having a complete system that is making sure that the right person, the right robot, is in the right place at the right time for the right job was a really key learning that we had very early on.
Yes.
And in response to that learning, what we've done is we've developed a system called Pivotal.
Okay.
So our Pivotal software is industry leading. It's really got 3 parts to it. Part number 1, it turns any piece of industrial equipment into a fully autonomous mobile robot. So, unlike many others, instead of building a piece of hardware and then writing a bunch of software for that specific piece of hardware, we've solved the much harder problem of writing a general purpose autonomy system that can run on any piece of equipment. So that's part number 1. Part number 2 is all of those robots, whether they're from us, other companies, etc., can stream data into our network operations center.
Okay.
That data is used for customer insights, machine learning, allowing the system to evolve more quickly because you're able to identify bottlenecks and opportunities for improvement. It can really help drive the roadmap as well. It makes it also, your decisions are data-driven rather than just, sort of
kind of feeling
out
it
on
out
the floor.
Yeah.
And then the third part is using that data to really drive operational efficiency. We call this the Pivotal Orchestration Engine.
Okay.
Orchestration is about making sure that what I was talking about before, that you've got the right piece of equipment in the right place at the right time.
Got it.
And that's a dynamic, real-time optimization. It's a super hard problem that has been unsolved for years. Actually, the military put a lot of money into our research over the past couple of decades to solve this problem in a practical way. So we've got a system that essentially in real time, you can kind of think of it like a grandmaster chess player.
Okay.
It's sitting up there, it's looking at the board, it sees where all the pieces are, it knows what you're trying to get done because it communicates with the warehouse management system, manufacturing execution system, order system, etc. And it knows where all of the pieces are. It knows where the people are. It knows where the equipment is. It knows where the inventory is. And then can do a really good job in real time of creating the best plan at this moment in time to get the job done.
Got it. Okay.
And so it's highly resilient, right? Because if a robot is going down an aisle and it encounters, some cases that fell off a pallet that are blocking the way, immediately that system can replan.
Oh, okay.
In real time. You no longer have this situation where you had a plan and something happened and now
the robot's confused.
You're shot. Yeah, the robot or the system as a whole. Right? So, it can immediately essentially forward simulate 5 different, 10, whatever solutions to that problem. Okay, do I reroute the robot around this other way? Do I have a different robot go and do that task? Do I immediately call a human in to, move the cases and resolve the issue? Maybe that can happen fast enough because I know somebody's nearby that the robot can just continue on its way. Right? There's never one obvious solution to every problem. You have to look at the details of what's going on. And the key point here is these problems need to be solved globally. Because it might be that robot doesn't actually need to get where it's going for another 5 minutes. It's not the long pole in the tent, right? It is not the bottleneck. So you can oftentimes fall into these false optimizations where, and we've seen this sometimes with our customers, they say, oh, well, the robot should go faster here.
Right.
Like, well, in this particular case, the robot can go faster, but it's just going to go queue up.
Right, yeah. Does it really need to go faster?
Yeah, why go faster to go wait in the line somewhere else? You need to really think about global efficiency within the facility, not local efficiency within this one spot.
Right.
And that's what pivotal orchestration really does. It's optimizing what's happening right now, but at the same time it's learning, it's helping you to optimize over the long term as well. Right,
yeah. I think that's really interesting that you talked about that because it's kind of like the human mind, right, is geared to like almost, get it there, get it done, like cross it off the list, right? Yeah. But it's interesting to introduce that idea of, well, the robot's thinking like, well, I don't necessarily need to be there right now, so I'm gonna navigate and take the time to get there until I actually need to be there. So how do you kind of, maybe for your customers, kind of change that mindset a little bit?
Yeah, it's hard.
We'll be back after a quick break.
You hear a lot about supply chains these days, because if the past couple years have taught us anything, it's that an efficient, well-managed supply chain is absolutely critical to keeping businesses successful and consumers happy. I'm Will Haywood, and I host a podcast called All Business, No Boundaries, where we talk about supply chains, how they work, what happens when they don't, and the innovations that are redefining what's possible in the world of logistics. Join me for insightful interviews with thought leaders and industry experts. We discuss how optimizing supply chains can break down the barriers that are holding businesses back. That's All Business, No Boundaries by DHL Supply Chain. Listen and subscribe wherever you get your podcasts.
I can imagine.
We have the advantage that our technology can integrate directly within existing operations,
Right.
which is really great for adoption.
Yeah.
On the flip side, sometimes you run into the challenge of the customers just wanting to plug a robot in where a human used to be,
Right.
and not considering the opportunities for optimization and enhancement of the overall workflow. So, the point about the robot taking the time, right? It's not necessarily that the robot's just going to go slower for no reason.
Right.
What that knowledge of the global problem allows is for that robot to say, I've got a little bit of extra time.
Yeah.
Is there another layer of optimization that I can satisfy? For example, this aisle that I'm going down tends to be needed for higher priority things.
Okay.
Maybe I can take this other aisle.
Like
it takes me a little bit
priority.
longer,
Yeah.
lower priority, but now I'm leaving that place uncongested for the higher priority stuff to get through faster.
Oh, wow.
Right? So it allows this level of optimization.
Yeah.
All other things being considered equal, if the robot can get there faster, it will, because then it can go on and do some other job too. If it's able to drop off its load or whatever.
Yeah.
So, it sort of goes a layer deeper than you would normally think. And that's because, like you said earlier, humans, we tend to think, oh, this thing needs to go faster to get where it needs to be.
Yeah. Get it done now.
Get it done now.
Get it off my plate, cross it off the list, yeah.
But that can really get in the way
Right.
of overall system efficiency.
Yeah, just kind of the
Overall
bigger
system
picture.
optimization.
Yeah. Interesting.
Because we've seen cases where you've got some staff that are working on keeping a particular belt clear,
Right.
and they're on that one.
Yeah.
But over here, there's a bottleneck that is not being addressed.
Yeah.
And that's really the priority right now. Keeping this one perfectly clear doesn't help you get the job done any faster.
Yeah, because you're still losing it on the other
That's
end.
right.
Right.
That's right.
Interesting.
And the issue is the bottlenecks are never static.
Yeah.
If in a well-designed system, that capacity and throughput has been efficiently or well designed from the beginning, what happens is your bottleneck will move around. Right. If you had one big bottleneck, of course that's an easy problem to solve. You say, all of our material is getting held up, here. So let's introduce capacity here.
Yeah.
But optimization is this whack-a-mole game in a sense, where the bottleneck moves.
Right.
And if it moved in a way that you could predict, obviously it would be an easy problem. But again, this is where the flexibility thing comes in, because most companies no longer are just, for instance, manufacturing the exact same thing day in and day out, and can afford to drive the last second out of every single one of those processes. What they're doing on a daily basis changes. There's new inputs, there's disturbances. So efficiency now has to be flexible. It has to be dynamic in real time.
Right. It's very interesting. Yeah. I really like this discussion, actually. It's very interesting because even just looking at it at a regular operation, just the efficiency and optimization, you bring up a lot of good points about how just focusing on one area instead of focusing on the total global picture of the whole thing can really not help you improve in a sense, right? You maybe improve one little thing, but you're not looking at the other whole. And the fact of the matter is that when you're looking at your system that you developed and how the ability of the robot to now think about things maybe I'll move just one aisle over and it'll create more efficiency on a different process.
For somebody else.
Yeah, I mean, that's kind of, that's a big thing.
It's a big step forward.
Yeah.
And this is why what we believe is that automation was so last decade.
Okay.
This coming decade is about orchestration.
Right.
Effectively orchestrating the automation and the indispensable human element together in the most effective way possible in real time.
Definitely.
So that's kind of our pitch.
Okay.
So
like
we
that.
sell amazing automated forklifts that are the best in the industry, the safest, the fastest, the best total cost of ownership. But that's just the tip of the iceberg.
Right. Yeah, so once you get that in, then you got to orchestrate it now.
That's right.
Right.
And so our pivotal orchestration software, again, it's all about the partnerships. I'm a big believer that this industry will grow. And by this industry specifically, I'm talking about mobile robots, automation, sort of the next generation of infrastructure. It will grow most effectively when we collaborate better. When as an industry we create the right interoperability standards so that a customer can go out and buy a product with confidence knowing that it'll plug in to their overall system. So, switching gears a little bit, my other hat is co-founder and president of MassRobotics. One of the really big things we're doing in MassRobotics is pushing forward the MassRobotics interoperability standard.
Okay.
So that interoperability standard is all about this idea of, you can't optimize a system if none of the subsystems are connected,
supporting each other,
communicating.
Yeah.
Right, and most customers don't have the expertise or the desire to try and do that.
Right.
Bringing in robots from 5 different companies and trying to get them all to work together and all to integrate with the WMS and all this, it's too big of a lift for anybody.
Right.
So the way that this industry is going to really progress is by establishing those interoperability standards so that it essentially becomes plug and play.
Got it.
It's not, that's a big ask, right? That's something that's going to take us a number of years to get to. And so we're sort of taking a multi-pronged approach. But if you just think back about the computer industry, most people don't remember the time when, in order to get a computer for your company, you had to call IBM. They would come in and they would take, a big room and they would fill it with computers that they built, and they would bring in an army of software engineers and program those computers, and then you had an HR system.
Interesting.
It wasn't until that industry had the absolutely crazy idea that, maybe a different company could write software for our hardware, that the industry really moved forward, right? And that just sounds heretical now. Because, the idea of I can buy my phone from somewhere and I can download apps, I mean, that's what the world is based on. A million other people. But that was a revolutionary idea when I was younger. Revolutionary idea. I mean, one of those things is so revolutionary, like most people would have never even predicted it.
Yeah.
But we're in the exact same spot right now with the robotics industry.
Definitely.
And I think we need to take that page, out of the history book, study it.
Yeah.
And not repeat it, right?
Yeah.
But use everything we've learned and the technology that has created to get ahead of this.
Definitely, I think that's so. Tell us, I guess, a little bit about what MassRobotics is, because it's kind of like a collaborative effort between a lot of the robotics companies that are in the Massachusetts area, which has become this kind of robotics hub in a sense, right?
Yeah. Oh, absolutely. Yeah. Massachusetts, New England area. Is absolutely a epicenter of robotics innovation. So, a little bit backstory. Vecna has always had a very strong social sense, give back to the community since day one, and has encouraged its employees to spend 10% of their work week doing community service. A few years ago, I realized that there was this gap in the industry, right? I basically did this thought experiment with, what happened with computers? Why is this not happening with robotics? And we felt like there was a need to establish an organization to try and help move the industry forward. Obviously for, selfish reasons. Obviously, it benefits us to have the industry move forward.
Right.
But there's so much benefit to society as a whole if we can solve some of these problems. So with my community service time, myself and some others, and pulling in others from the community, we established MassRobotics. The goal of MassRobotics is to help bring technology, customers, investors together in a meaningful way. What was happening prior to that was a lot of really talented people coming out of university that were excited about robotics, but they didn't really understand what was needed in the market. And you saw this time and time again with people proposing solutions that, people would say, oh, that's shiny, that's neat, but doesn't make sense,
Like practically.
We've already solved this problem in another way was unfortunately a very common situation. Oh, that's really cool, but we've already got a machine that does that faster. Right? And we saw this happening again and again. So we wanted to establish an organization that could support startups in a way that would help them not make those mistakes. I mean, I made a lot of those mistakes over the past several decades in building this robotics company. And the thought was, we can help move this industry forward faster if everybody doesn't have to make those mistakes themselves.
Right, learn from each other.
Learn from each other. Share, right? There's this idea called pre-competitive collaboration. In the semiconductor industry, you'll hear the CEO of Intel talk about how Moore's law, right? Every 18 months, the number of transistors on a piece of silicon will double.
Right.
And he points out Moore's law is not a law. There was no law about it, right? It's not like gravity.
Right.
Moore's law was a goal set by the industry in pre-competitive collaboration, and a goal achieved by the industry as a whole through pre-competitive collaboration. How can we help each other move the industry forward as a whole, thus making a bigger pie for everybody?
Right.
So that's really a lot of what MassRobotics is about, trying to encourage that pre-competitive collaboration in the industry that, traditionally has been very secretive.
Yes.
It's been very, I want to own everything. This is multi-billion, probably even trillion-dollar industry at the end of the day.
Right.
I like to say there's the 3 M's. Anything that moves, anything that's manufactured, anything that needs maintenance, robots are going to be involved with those things.
Without a doubt. Yeah.
Without a doubt, right? And if you look at any portion of the economy, that is a big, big portion of the economy. That encompasses just about every physical aspect of the economy. So there's plenty of money for everybody.
Right.
If we can work together a little bit more, we can really help unlock a lot of value for the consumers, for the companies that are meeting the consumers' needs, for humanity as a whole.
Definitely, yeah. I think that even the collaboration helps with the customer acceptance of robots as well, right? Because, for a long time, robots were scary to a lot of people. And there's probably still people that think robots are scary too. So, but being able to kind of have this collective, of robotics companies that are kind of pushing the same, maybe agenda is not the right word, but the same idea, and
that are willing to work together in a way that ultimately benefits the customer.
And makes it easier for the customer to embrace, kind of. So it's a really great thing. That you're doing there, obviously with Vecna, but also with the MassRobotics too, as well. So
and not everybody participates. There are many companies, robotics companies still, that feel like they've got it all locked up and they don't need to participate or to try and help the industry as a whole move forward. And I think that's unfortunate. I think ultimately customers will start to encourage them to do that because they are going to choose to buy from companies that are good citizens.
Definitely.
In a number of communities. So. Yeah, and going back to the Vecna Robotics piece, again, we try and live by that same standard. So we're always looking for great companies to work with. We try really hard to be the best possible partner. We're looking for great partners as well. We're looking for additional OEMs to use our software on their equipment. We're looking for integrators to take our solutions to their customers. We look for startup companies that have great technology that we can incorporate into our solutions. This is a team sport.
Definitely.
You're not going to win without the team.
Yeah, I agree, especially in this kind of field and this kind of technology, and having the technology keep pushing forward and growing in the right direction, I think is super important for the collaboration, especially even if you think from a customer perspective. You mentioned earlier, maybe a customer needs this type of robot from this company for one operation in their facility, and then they need a different thing from something else. Like, you want to have the confidence as a customer that they're going to be able to work together. And there's not going to be any complications when those two robotics worlds need to like interact. Yeah. So I think that's really, really important.
And the interaction is the key, right? Here's the thing. You know, Elon Musk has had a fairly famous tweet when he said, I screwed up. We tried to over-automate.
Yeah.
Humans are underrated. But the problem that they were running into is those interactions between systems are where the challenges often happen.
Right.
That's where the exceptions happen. And so effective exception handling, humans are amazing at that.
Yeah.
Humans are underrated. Humans are absolutely phenomenal at creative problem solving. That, you know, you need engineers programming for a long time to, to solve a lot of edge cases. And the edge cases don't really provide a lot of value.
Yeah.
Right? Sometimes edge cases may happen once in a week, once in a month. And how much engineering time are you going to put into solving a problem that happens that often?
Infrequent, yeah.
Yeah, exactly. But if you can effectively leverage humans in the system, those problems go away. Right, because you're having the humans and robots collaborate.
Yeah.
So, you know, in terms of the overall pitch for our technology, we've really nailed that. We have robots that are absolutely safe to operate around human beings. We have robots that are smart enough to ask for help at the right time.
When they need it.
When they need it, yeah. And, so a robot, if it runs into a situation it doesn't know how to deal with, it will try a number of what we call recovery behaviors. It'll test different things. It's recording all of this so it can be learned and shared in the future. And then it will ask for help. And that help may be remote. That help may be local, depending on what the situation is.
Right.
But that is critical, and getting that right is critical to success.
Definitely. I think that's a good thing too, knowing that the robot knows when to ask for help. Because sometimes for humans, that's a hard thing.
Oh, it's a hard thing, right? And it's unreasonable for us to expect to be able to deploy a bunch of robots that never need help. I mean, you wouldn't dream of, hiring a bunch of employees and saying, this is the last time we're going to talk to you.
Yeah.
Right?
Doesn't work that way.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
If someone comes, they say, I don't, this case broke open. I'm not sure what to do. Should we, whatever. No, you need to be able to ask those questions.
Definitely.
And sometimes those questions have to go up the chain even to get an answer.
Right.
So.
All right, great stuff. So how can people find out more about Vecna Robotics?
Yeah, check out our website, vecnarobotics.com.
Okay.
Would love to see people, contact us in obviously all the normal ways. We'd be happy to come in and show them really what the Power Pivotal can do for them. It's pretty easy to get started.
Right.
I think we're one of the few systems out there that you can really start incrementally. You can buy one vehicle, put it into your existing operations, get comfortable with it, learn, and then expand from there.
Okay.
It really, I think, helps the workers to lose that fear of automation as well when you can take that incremental approach.
Right, and I think that's the key to success there. So what about anybody that's listening that's interested in getting involved with MassRobotics or finding out more about MassRobotics?
Yeah, absolutely. Go to their website. There's a number of ways to get involved. Certainly, one of the great ways is if you're a robotics startup company. We just opened new co-working space.
Oh, really?
Yeah, so we've got quite a number of startups in that co-working space, and there's a lot of benefits there because they don't have to get their own equipment. There's a lot of robots there that they can use and test their stuff on. Yeah, there's 3D printers, there's machine shops, there's a tremendous amount of knowledge about sensors and what works and what doesn't. So it's an ideal situation for a robotics startup. So that's a really great one. If you're an investor, MassRobotics is an amazing place to go to get exposed to the companies that are actually going to be good investments.
Right.
If you are a provider of technology, a sensor provider, etc., it's a great place to go and highlight your technology. Some companies come and do like challenges where they say, hey, we've got this new sensor, we're going to give you 10 free. We want to see what you guys can do with it. So lots and lots of ways to get involved. But I would encourage everybody in this industry to get involved with MassRobotics in one way or the other.
Just to increase their knowledge base in some way, right? Okay. All right, great stuff. So thank you so much for stopping by the booth, and I hope you enjoy the rest of the MODEX show.
Yeah, my pleasure. Thank you.
All right.
You've been listening to the New Warehouse Podcast with Kevin Lawton. Subscribe and check us out online at thenewwarehouse.com.
Thank you for listening to this episode. If you want more content from the New Warehouse, check out our new video series called All Hands on LinkedIn. Just search for the New Warehouse on LinkedIn and follow along.